Hello folks, this is Steve KB5034441. Nothing in this episode is a promotion nor is it a recommendation. And I'm just an idiot running my mouth. You've been warned. Recently there's been a bit of consternation and controversy about one of the January 2024 Windows 10 updates having to do with vulnerability in BitLocker. I don't use it on my computer. Anyway, the particular update is known as KB5034441. Now here's an example article from Bleeping Computer. Windows 10 KB5034441 security update fails with, and then they give an error number. And it's on Reddit and you can find it. There's been a lot of articles about it. Now, it doesn't happen on every Windows 10 machine. I have several Windows 10 machines of various sources. I have one that's an upgrade from Windows 7, and it's 10 years old. I have another one that's an upgrade from Windows 8.1. I have another one that's from the manufacturer that way. And I also have one where I installed it fresh. Some of them, this update, 503441, went in no problem. But I had several which it wasn't able to do it. And I'm talking about the 19th of January 2024 is the date when I was doing the updates. But now it's in the early morning hours of January 24th, and what I will tell you is Microsoft has fixed it. What do I mean? Here's their page about KB5034441 Windows Recovery Environment, which is where the BitLocker code apparently is. Update for Windows 10 version 21H2 and 22H2. I'm on 22H2. January 9th, 2024. Now this is where they started to get and then acknowledged that quite often, not always, but quite often, people doing the updates for January got error install failure. And if you read this article, they haven't updated it yet to tell you that they've got a successful fix. They have issued, I won't show it, an article about this long, complicated procedure only for experts using disk part and all that stuff to stretch the Windows recovery environment partition to make it big enough. Good luck. Back on the 19th, when I attempted to install all the updates for January 2024 on this machine, for the KB503441, it said status download error, and there's the error number. The .NET framework went fine. The cumulative update for Windows 22H2 itself, Windows 10, it went fine, but it immediately said download error, which is not the way they were explaining it in their official article. So when the ones that were working okay finished and we rebooted, and I went back to see if there's any updates still, I got this message. There were some problems installing updates, but we'll try again later. if you keep seeing this and want to search the web for and then they give you the error number. That was on the 19th, which was almost a week after they acknowledged that there was a problem. I do my updates on a Friday. Today is the early hours of, not Friday, but the 24th, Wednesday morning. Yesterday evening, I wanted to play around and see if I could figure out how to stretch the partitions on the machines that it didn't succeed on my own way. I have a spare SSD. I have images of the computer disks that failed. I put that on the SSD and then I played with it with my tools, GPartEd specifically. And I got it to work by expanding the partition. I created a new additional partition, copied into it what was in the original one, renamed the original one, took the flags off, put the flags on the new one, and it ran the update fine. But then when I backtracked and started again to repeat it, I noticed that when I went to Windows Update, it just simply updated the original setup that had failed before I was going to repeat what I had done to play around with it. And I went, wait a minute, have they fixed it? Notice I didn't say, did you waste your time? Because doing the experiments brought me to actually playing with it at a time where apparently they have an update to KB5034441, and now it works. At least on the 3 machines that it failed on for me, which have different layouts in their partitions, because one of them is an upgrade from Windows 7. For example. Another one's an update from Windows 8.1, and another one is Windows 10 from a major manufacturer of computers. So after making backup images, I just went ahead and did the update on this machine. In other words, I resumed updates and watched it, and what it did is, we can see it here, maybe I can make it a little larger. This is at 3:48, this is just an hour ago. It said, oh, you need an update of your antivirus. And then it says, oh, we've got a replacement for the .NET update that you did on the 19th, we've got an update for that. I had to do a little research. But look at the third one. Security update for Windows 10 version 22H2 for x86-based systems, KB5034441, installing. Instead of download error. Now, the way it'll go, at least the way it did on all 3 machines that now are fixed, it'll say installing 0%. There will be no progression, 50%, 70%. It'll just disappear when it's finished. And then it'll go and do those others. It does this one first. It's prioritized. Pardon me. So then it looks like this. It just goes and it's done the virus update. It's done the KB5034441 security update for BitLocker and now it's working on the .NET update to the update of the .NET framework. And when it was finished, when I looked at update history, security update KB5034441 successfully installed January 24th, an hour ago. But on the 19th, it failed. And I didn't do anything to change the machine other than retry. So that's the news. Now, why am I going through all of this? How to fix KB5034441. There's videos about it. Various people have made videos. And you can see that there's been all kinds of discussion. And Microsoft there's a procedure here. I've watched a video how to fix Windows 10 KB503441 failing to install. And there's the procedure. Good luck. Be careful. Back everything up. But you don't need to do that. Now they do it by expanding the Windows recovery partition, and there's a procedure how to do it using this part, which is a utility, and you have to be administrative mode, and you've got to be careful. Now here's my conjecture on how they fixed the problem. This procedure, which comes actually from Microsoft, says you need to create a larger Windows recovery partition and then run the update, and it'll have enough room to complete the work. Now, what does that mean? Each of the fixes that people have worked out all involve making a larger Windows recovery, that's the name of it, Windows recovery partition. But now, I'm telling you that you don't have to do that. You don't have to touch anything. All you do now is just resume updates. It'll go get it. It'll see that you need it. It'll go get it, and it will install without you touching anything, without you making the Windows recovery partition larger and endangering your machine if you don't know what you're doing. And if there's room to do it. One of my machines, the Windows recovery partition, was 1 gigabyte, which is supposed to be big enough, but it was the first partition, and what's the ones right after it? The UEFI, and the one after that C, and there's no room to make it bigger. So how come the update worked? Now, this is the whole point of me doing this video. You're all going to hear tomorrow that it's been fixed. Here's my conjecture about how they did it. We'll see if I'm prophetic. They needed enough room to do the prep to modify something in the Windows recovery partition. Mine was 1 gigabyte large, and they say just make it like 2 gigabytes, and then it'll work. What I think the new fix does is that it sees that your current Windows recovery partition isn't large enough to be used as a work area for the needed copying and modification before reinstalling and fixing what needs to be fixed. Won't fit in 1 gigabyte. So what we'll do is that almost everybody's got at least 1 gigabyte available on the C drive, which everybody has a system drive. We'll make a hidden folder of at least 1 gigabyte, or maybe 2, on the C drive. We'll do the work on the C drive, and when we check it out and it's what we want, then we'll copy it back into the original, overwrite the stuff that's in the original, smaller, not big enough, Windows recovery partition. And then we'll delete the hidden folder on the C drive, and everybody's fine. All they've done is changed where they are putting or using as workspace. Intermediate workspace. That's the fix. That's the fix. The people at Microsoft don't test anything before they issue it. All they do is what's called simulated testing. They don't have people doing it, and they don't have a million different machines of Windows 10 with all kinds of arrangements of the partitions. So they made fools of themselves. They look like clowns. So we'll see what people explore and find out how they actually did it. Again, I'll state how I think they did it. The new version of the update examines the size of the current Windows recovery partition. If it's already like 10 gigabytes, they just go ahead and do the install. But it did the install originally. Anyway, so they know that it needs to be at least a certain, not just certain size, but with a certain amount of free space to do the work intermediates in. And if it doesn't have enough of that, then they'll create a hidden folder on the C drive marked as system, use that as the temporary work area, build what they need it to be, and then copy it back into the original Windows recovery partition. And how do I know this is the way they did it indirectly? How do I know? Because when I was experimenting around on that machine where the gigabyte was in the first gigabyte on the drive and I couldn't expand it, what I did is I used a tool to create another partition at the end of the drive where there was free space. I made it 2 gigabytes. I used a utility to make a copy of the original Windows recovery environment, and I put it in the 2 gigabyte one, and then I changed the flags and the names, and then I said, Windows, will you try to update this? And it updated it. But when it finished doing it, what I noticed was out of the 2 gigabytes, In the original one, 1 gigabyte, how much free space was there? A gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. There was about 443 megabytes free space in the gigabyte. That means the rest of it was used for the recovery environment code or whatever it is. 443 free. So I knew how large it was, and then I looked in the 2, and the finished product was only about 20 megabytes larger than the original version. So the conclusion you would draw is the 1 gig just didn't have enough temporary workspace. And so my conjecture is the new update, which works on anybody, is because they're using a hidden folder temporarily on the C drive to do the intermediary work, and then they write it back into the original. It's not going to be much bigger than what was there, but they have the workspace they need on the C drive. Then they delete that. Pardon me for going on at length. I'm patting myself on the back. We'll see what the real story is when the experts analyze what's going on. There will be YouTube videos and there will be articles online that will explain why it suddenly succeeds. Okay? Steve AB4EL announcing to the world that as of the early hours or the late hours of January 23rd, Eastern Standard Time, 2024, on the 23rd of January, Microsoft has surreptitiously updated KB5034441, and it will succeed on everybody's machine. Saying see you in 73.